Seeing this group, Ong asks the leader who they are, learning they are a squad under Ji Yaotan by the name of Black Gun, which also happens to be their seniors. There, the leader asks one of his members how many rookie squads have joined their team, and one of the girls replies, 3. Hearing this, he realizes that this squad has yet to pay respect to their seniors, and neither have they sought their approval beforehand to take all the A-rank missions. With this, he begins to threaten the rookies, claiming, "Seems like you aren't taking us seriously. If you want to be taken seriously, I would ditch the mask, to be honest." On the other hand, Liu is left watching the corpse of the prey they worked so hard to capture, eyes filled with rage. Just as the Black Gun leader asks who the rookie squad's leader is, Liu dashes to attack him. However, just by the skin of his teeth, he is able to dodge the attack, questioning how she dared to attack their seniors. He condemns Liu as an undisciplined noob, but Liu doesn't care to listen, asking, "How dare you call yourselves seniors?" Not only that, she even moves in to attack, but in the blink of an eye, Suoi, Jiyu, and Lan forcibly stop her. Lan tells her not to act rashly, since they are still their seniors, and suggests that they try to talk it out. On the flip side, Suoi Jiyu tells the Black Gun they are being too unreasonable. They have just killed demons they put so much effort into capturing, but the Black Gun couldn't care less. "Huh, unreasonable," the leader exclaims. "That's just how the competition here is. How naive must you be?" But all this does is enrage Liu even more. Inside her mind, she calls them all bastards, claiming she will not back down in such a position or else she will not be able to face her squad as the leader. Sensing her fury build up, Lan calls out to Ong, telling him to smooth things over with the seniors. However, little does he know, Ong is already in action. At the speed of light, he zooms past his team and heads towards the Black Gun leader, swiftly soccer kicking him in the face and sending him flying into the horizon. Ong claims that he has never seen such BS, and seeing this, Lan is left speechless, whereas Liu gives him a sign of approval. However, it doesn't look like the Black Gun leader is too happy about this and questions how dare they treat their seniors like this. Having had enough of this insolence, he orders his entire squad to get ready for battle. In response, Liu and the others also gear up and both teams head in for a frontal clash. Just as all hell is about to break loose, Ji Yaotan appears out of nowhere. "What buffoonery!" he exclaims while stopping both Ong and the Black Gun leader's attack. What's more, he sends them both flying simultaneously, making Ong realize that they will not be able to get into a fight. As it turns out, he wanted to check the standards of the modern warriors by having a little bout here. On the other hand, Ji Yaotan, gritting his teeth, asks his subordinates if they don't care about survival. The sun is about to set, and here they are still fighting with each other, looking to become the food for the demon horde. Seeing the squadron leader here, the Black Gun leader begins blaming the rookies immediately, claiming they attacked first and even smacked his mask off. What an honorable move. However, hearing him complaining to Ji Yaotan, Liu calls him a child. All of a sudden, Suoi Jiyu pops in, revealing that these so-called seniors killed 3 demons they captured but are still complaining like little girls. In addition, she even has photographic evidence of their wrongdoing. But this makes Ji Yaotan a bit disillusioned. Capturing demons alive is an A-rank mission, and he questions if the rookies really took it on their own. But Liu tells him that not only did they take it, they even completed the task. And it is the Black Gun who has wasted their efforts. Alas, this is all part of the course. Even though it may seem extreme, the seniors have gone through a similar experience in the past. This is all allowed. The thing is, the commanders ultimately only look at a squad's points, and apart from intentional harm or endangerment of another's life, all other forms of competitive behavior are allowed. A bit drastic, but okay. Since they are warriors, they will have to face even greater challenges in the future, and things won't be as basic as they are here. Moreover, he also announces that the reason he is stepping in today is not because infighting between squads is prohibited, rather is because the sun is setting, and he orders them all to hurry up and return to the city. On the other hand, Ji Yaotan tells the seniors just how disappointed he is. A rookie squad took their mission, and they even allowed themselves to get beat up. He tells the leader to go back and reflect on his dumb actions. With this, the Black Gun leader goes over to retrieve his fallen mask and he asks Ong for his name, threatening him, telling him he will make sure his squad is at the bottom of the leaderboard this month. He also vows to take revenge for the brutal kick he received. Nevertheless, with the ordeal ending for now at least, he orders his team to return, and they all vanish out of sight. Meanwhile, Ji Yaotan tells the rookies that even though the Black Gun is not the strongest squad, they have superb execution and could prove to be a threat. It might not end well for the rookies if they are pitted against more experienced people, not to mention the fact that the leader of the seniors excels at firearms. Anyway, with the sun about to set, they all begin heading back to the city. There, Liu compliments Ong, telling him, "That kick of yours was pretty cool." Anyway, as they head back, Lan asks if Ong is going to come over for dinner tonight, but he refuses. You see, he apparently has plans for the night. He wants to go out and capture 3 demons all by himself. Not the best move if you ask me. And just as he said, as nightfall arrives, Ong sneaks out to the city walls. The entire time, all he hears are loud warnings from the speakers, telling everyone to stay inside the city for their own safety and protection. However, there is not a soul in sight. This, in addition to the fact that the city is on lockdown, makes him think that everyone must be at home. "The people aren't as vigilant as I expected them to be," he exclaims. As he walks closer, all he finds is that the gate has a slight opening and an unmanned sign telling him not to approach the gate. But who's really going to know? There, Ong realizes that things have changed very much since his lifetime. Back in the day, they didn't care if it was day or night. And they would even sometimes go out on night capture missions. What's more, the night missions are even more productive since you can find demons literally all over. This makes him think that, if he uses his forceful methods from the past, capturing 3 non-fin demons shouldn't be a big problem. All the Black Gun leader said he was going to do was disrupt his team, right? So all Ong has to do is get the mission done at a completely unexpected time. Just as he begins to make his way out, tooting his own horn about his genius, he hears a voice behind him. And this voice belongs to none other than Liu, who is pretty excited to be out at night. Inside her mind, she comments on how fun it is to be a warrior since she has so much freedom. Of course, she can't say all this outright and thus questions what Ong is doing. However, trying to hide his intentions, he claims he was just taking a stroll. Although he was gifted as a warrior, he's a terrible actor, and Liu sees right through his lie. Ultimately, Ong has to give in and reveals that he wants to surprise everyone by completing the mission at night. Unfortunately, he is now discovered, and the plan is now off. With this, he begins heading back, telling Liu to not rat him out to his superiors. Suddenly, Liu speaks up, announcing, "Count me in." She is super excited to sneak out at night and asks him what their plan is, letting out a chuckle and a smug grin. Meanwhile, on top of the wall, 2 guards are seen sitting around, carrying out their duties, though admittedly not very well. One of the guards questions why they must suffer like this. I mean, who would go out of the night unless they had a death wish? Not to mention, they could avoid this pain by just shutting the door either way. All of a sudden, the other guard tells him to shut up, warning him to never let any of the squad leaders hear him speak such insolence. Apparently, the gap in the door is left in case of emergency. In the past, there was an incident where a couple of refugees fled to the city, begging for help against the demon horde after them. But alas, they met their cruel end just because the gates were a few seconds late in opening. Ever since then, all cities have left a small gap in the gate as an emergency measure. In this world, nothing is more important than human life. Reminded of this story, the complaining guard apologizes, but the other one tells him not to fret it. They will soon get used to this boring duty, but hey, there are things they can do to pass the time. Things like reading this 18+ book one of them has brought. What's more, this is a pretty expensive one. A photo book of all the other cities' female warriors. I see you are a man of culture as well. As they fawn over these women, Ong and Liu easily escape out of the city walls and head into the abyss. As they do so, Ong notices that the fog seems to have gotten denser at night and takes Liu to a secluded place, where they are far from getting detected in the decaying forest. As soon as they reach, Ong tells her the plan. He will lure the monsters over, and they will then aim for their heads, knocking them down using brute force. With this brief explanation, he confidently heads into the fog, leaving Liu alone and scared. There, she realizes that she is in a really precarious situation. A sense of the forest darkness swallowing her up at any moment begins to weigh on her, making her understand that she needs to prepare herself and quickly follow up with her attacks when Ong returns, as per their plan. And so the mission finally begins. Ong's expertise in luring out the demons shocks Liu because he would single out one no-fin demon each time. This makes the difficulty of the mission decrease significantly. And to Liu, who had never heard of this method of capturing demons, this was a new, unique, and exciting idea. She quickly became accustomed to it, and her skills were honed. Under his guidance, they both repeatedly aimed for the demon's head, causing the monsters to eventually succumb to head concussions and get knocked out. The method used half a century ago of capturing demons alive with brute force played out tonight once again. Still, despite the process being smooth, it required a lot of strength and stamina, making Ong realize that he needed to train the scrappy body of his. In the past, this was like child's play to him, but how the mighty has fallen. Eventually, they capture all 3 demons they need, and their mission comes to an end. There, Ong tells Liu to just leave them all here, making her a bit confused. As such, he explains that no-fin demons are pretty dumb and cannot save their own kind. In addition, they won't get too close to the city walls either, and these 3 demons will not be waking up anytime soon. All the rookies have to do is simply come back early tomorrow and submit the quest, and boom, mission done. Well, that was easy. Hearing all this, Liu questions how Ong knows all of this. However, just as he is left cursing himself for saying too much, they hear a sinister voice from up above, and as they look up, they find not only 1 but 2 one-fin demons. Seeing them, both Liu and Ong are left distressed. Back at the city, the squadron leaders gather up at the city walls, announcing that they have picked up signs of one-fin demons in the area and order the wall guards to scan around with spotlights. Ji Yao is left stunned as to why the one-fin demons are appearing, questioning if it could be the one that appeared during the assessment. But that is not possible, as per Ji Yao Tang, who claims it should be dead. Soon enough, they find their target and are left terrified upon finding not only 1 but 2 of them. Still, Chi Yao tells everyone to stay calm and shut the city gates. Moreover, he orders to get the defensive turrets ready as well. However, all of a sudden, Yao Tang tells them to hold it. We mustn't shut the gates. As per him, there seems to be someone there. Those brats. Why are they there? He questions while looking down at Ong and Liu, who are cornered by these one-fin demons. Seeing these kids there, even Ji Yao is left perplexed as to why they are there. But Yao Tang, after assessing the situation and seeing the 3 tied-up demons, understands that they must have been trying to complete the mission of capturing the no-fin demons alive at night, since they were destructed during the day. But it doesn't look like any of the commanders are happy about their antics, and even Chi Yao chimes in, announcing that getting reckless in their desire to put on a good performance is a problem all rookie warriors have. Anyway, Yao Tang claims that they are in for a harsh punishment and leaps into the decaying forest to get his students out of danger. And following his lead, Xi Yao also tags along, telling Qi Yao to keep command over the city while they both go out on a rescue mission. Meanwhile, back in the forest, the one-fin demons are also aware that their location has been spotted. On the other hand, Ong tells Liu to get behind him, claiming they should stay low until help arrives. To him, it is as clear as day that the demon's target is him. In addition, he notes that these demons are behaving the same way that the one-fin demon in the cave reacted, wondering if this could be because of his rebirth or maybe if something happened in the cave. However, Liu is not one to back down. She claims that they will fight off these demons together and step up for battle. Obviously, thinking they are being underestimated, the demons, in the blink of an eye, jump down from the treetop, circle behind the rookie warriors, and unleash a devastating blow. First, they want to get rid of the useless one, aka Liu. But Ong, by the skin of his teeth, manages to push her out of the attack's way. And thank God he did, or else she would have been shattered to pieces, similar to the ground, which gets destroyed by the attack's shockwave. But still, Liu doesn't give up. She uses her green core and tries to attack the demon, but it looks like she has forgotten this isn't a 1 versus 2. Her attack doesn't make contact, and as it turns out, she is completely constrained by the other demon, who ties her up in his strings. Seeing this, Ong is left worried for his comrade and gets distracted, but that isn't a good idea. In that second, the other demon is able to close the distance and gets in his face. Nevertheless, it looks like getting distracted was not really a big worry. Out of nowhere, Yao Tang arrives and punches the demon straight in the face, telling it to don't even think about hurting those 2. But the cool dad, he is. But despite this, the demon gets back up, exclaiming how his head almost exploded from the attack. Meanwhile, Ji Yao notices that the demons have a red and a blue core respectively, and they still have to save Liu. All the while, Qi Yao decides to get the turrets ready, telling them to be careful not to hit their people. Just then, a soldier comes running towards him, telling him that they have detected a large number of no-fin demons heading in the city's direction. Hearing this, he asks how many enemies there are but learns that there are countless. It's a demon wave. Out in the distance, the horde of demons is seen running at the city walls at full speed. Such a sight even leaves the first commander of the city at a loss, and he orders for the alarms to be started. All warriors within the city must prepare for combat, and as soon as they can, the soldiers get ready. They assemble into their squads and begin gathering at the walls. Back in the forest, Yao Tong also sees the demon wave, claiming they must be well prepared to make such a big move. On the other hand, Ji Yao speculates that this wave must be called by these two one-finned, hence they need to quickly deal with them and get it over with. Hearing all of this, Li Yu tells everyone to go ahead and help the city. In her mind, she is to be blamed for her reckless actions, and her actions are now even dragging down the squadron leader and putting the lives of the citizens in danger. Obviously, Yao Tong refuses this, claiming she will be coming back with them, and all three of the warriors rush at their foes. But it's not like the demons will let them take her so easily. The red cord demon unleashes an attack to stop these approaching warriors. However, for some reason, he allows only Ong to pass, even giving him a smug comment. On the flip side, after motioning Ong over, the blue cord demon flees with Li Yu. Seeing this, Ong realizes that this is a trap and comes to the understanding that, at his current power level, he will be unable to do anything. Even Yao Tong wants him to stop and not follow the demon, but that could mean the end of Li Yu. He recalls the gaze she just gave him, commenting on how it is awfully familiar. How could I not follow after seeing that? How could I ever abandon her? He asks himself as he ventures deeper into the foggy forest, and they say chivalry is dead. Clearly, they haven't heard of our boy. On the other hand, the blue cord demon takes Li Yu into a deep corner of the forest, telling her that we, one-finns, are very interested in humans' rich emotions. As per his knowledge, humans will scream when in despair and tells Li Yu to beg, claiming he wants to hear her pleas. But Li doesn't let out a single word, making the demon think that maybe the tape he put on her mouth is not allowing her to speak. Anyway, after removing it, he once again tells her to beg, but she refuses. She proclaims that she was raised in a martial family, and she will never bow her head in front of an enemy. Cowardice is their shame, and she tells the demon to either kill her or fight her again. But all this does is piss off the demon even more. In a fit of rage, he kicks her in the face, telling her that she is only bait and will die soon enough. But all of a sudden, Ong appears behind them, telling the demon to let her go, as he is the one they are after. Seeing him here, Li Yu is left perplexed at why he came here alone, where the demon is ecstatic, happily announcing that the plan has worked and confirming that Ong is indeed the target. There, Ong asks if Li Yu is alright, but she scolds him, asking why he came here. In her mind, there is no way Ong can beat a one-finned alone, and tells him to leave, but the demon, not amused by her comments, kicks her in the stomach to make her shut up. Seeing this, Ong gets enraged and tells the demon not to hurt her. He states that if he is the target, he should be in place of Li Yu, and she should be set free. But this makes the demon chuckle. Using his blue core's agility, he easily maneuvers and gets all up close and personal with Ong, announcing you both must die. Of course, they won't take it lying down, and Ong tries to retaliate, using his knife to slice at the demon. Alas, the demon is not a pushover and dodges the slash. Moreover, he even attacks Ong and delivers some damage, making Ong understand that his scrawny body still isn't capable of responding to such swift attacks. Sensing this, the demon begins toying around with Ong. He remarks that Ong's body has a smell similar to theirs, and this has made him curious as to why. In the meantime, seeing his vulnerabilities, Ong understands that this demon is a water type. In addition to this, his body is far too weak to use any skills apart from physical techniques, and if this continues at this rate, he will surely die. And this is exactly what Li Yu is thinking as well. She condemns Ong, contemplating why he would come here. But then, she spots a rather pointy rock and begins crawling to it, thinking that she just can't stay still. All the while, Ong is getting attacked repeatedly and suddenly spots an opportunity to attack for himself. However, the demon easily stops him, asking why he is so weak. Ong should have killed that one fin in the cave, and hence, asks if he is faking it. But Ong has no idea what on earth this monster is talking about. But his bad attitude has pissed off the one fin even more, and he decides to punish him. With a swift kick, the demon sends Ong flying, crashing into the woods, making him feel like all his organs have been disemboweled. As he lies there on the cold ground, nearing the verge of death, he thinks about how low he has fallen to have been defeated by a one fin. Regardless, the demon just comes closer to him, claiming that if Ong does not let out his secret, he will just eat him, adding that Ong might be able to help him evolve. But at that moment, out of nowhere, Li Yu comes in and attacks the demon, managing to push it behind and create some distance, ready to fight. She tells the demon not to touch her squad member, Seeing her here, even the demon is surprised that she managed to break free of her binding, but Ang, almost out cold, notices that she had to literally shred her flesh in order to do so. Despite the gap in power, Liu stands like a wall, telling the demon, "If you want to kill one of my squad members, you'll have to kill me, the captain, first." But he doesn't happily comply, telling Liu that, in that case, she doesn't dodge the attack coming her way. With this, he summons many ice shards and sends them all towards his prey. And as they come, Liu begins fending them off, not letting a single one pass. Seeing this, Ang tells her that she needs to dodge them instead, but this would mean that they all would hit Ang instead. But alas, all this is too much for her to handle on her own. All of a sudden, a few shards pierce into her from behind, launching her directly into the demon's hands. Grabbing her by the neck, the demon claims since Liu wants to die in battle, she will instead be humiliated. With a sinister smile, he exclaims, "You'll be screaming soon enough." As these events unfold, Ang is left lying on the floor witnessing it. As he watches helplessly, he comments on what a shame it is that he has been reborn only to see yet another one of his teammates die right in front of him. In the end, nothing has changed, and he condemns himself, claiming he is not the strongest warrior anymore since he needed to rely on a young lady to protect himself. As these thoughts rush into his head, he slowly becomes unable to watch. He slowly begins letting out a strong aura, and all of a sudden, he pounces to rescue Liu from the demon's hands. With this, he tells Liu she did well for this being her first time, and Liu stares back at him, seeing he has been half transformed into his demon form. On the other hand, the demon remarks that Ang does share the scent of the demon and exclaims how strong the stench is. Still, Ang has no idea what on earth this monster is talking about. All he knows is that, as of this moment, power seems to be surging out of his chest and shooting upwards, as though it will pierce his body. Suddenly, Ang begins to scream in pain and lets out an intense aura. This causes his core to change appearance, and it begins to glow brightly, as well as gain a mark in the center. Seeing this, the one-fin demon begins to shudder, proclaiming that it's the Kingfin's core. Although this baffles the demon, he announces that Ang will die here. However, Ang will not just go down without a fight and begins walking toward his enemy, having awakened his one-fin form, back towards the squadron leaders who are still having trouble with their opponents. There, the red core demon feels an intense aura emitting from the forest, and he comments on how it belongs to someone of his kind. This distracts him for a while and allows Yao Tong to smack him. In addition, Ji Yao also jumps in and kicks the monster in the face, sending it flying away. But the battle is far from over. The demon gets back up in a matter of moments, and in response, the warriors rush in to seal the deal. Somehow, they manage to hit at the exact same time and pierce straight into the demon's body, rendering a huge hole in his chest. Seeing this, the demon realizes that it has met its end. Of course, it will not go out without a bang, and while in the air, decides to launch a final attack. As per Ji Yao, it looks like the monster is trying to self-explode, taking both his foes with him. However, out of nowhere, a bright beam of light appears from the sky, striking down the demon and sending it to the afterlife. As it turns out, this beam of light was a high-speed shot by the defensive artillery. Meanwhile, at the city walls, all the warriors are going all out, trying to hold back the demons from overwhelming them. Even Chi Yao, the first commander, is getting his hands dirty, but alas, even he cannot make a dent in the sheer numbers of enemies. There are just too many of them, and there's no way they can kill all of them. As such, understanding he alone stands no chance, he orders Ji Yao and Yao Tong to return back to the city as the wave has completely approached. Hearing this, Ji Yao tells Yao Tong that they need to go help the citizens, but Yao Tong looks reluctant, claiming that at this rate, Li Yu and Ong will not make it out alive. There, Ji Yao tries to help him calm down, telling him that he too feels bad for the rookies. But they are not just squadron leaders, they are warriors, and hence, they're first. So, Yao Tong is forced to give up on his underlings, and the two of them turn back and head to support the city. Meanwhile, back deeper in the forest, the blue one-fin demon is losing his mind over what he has just seen. He questions why a fin has grown out of a human. And all of this just brings Ong to one conclusion. Maybe this is the reason for my reincarnation. He was given this demonic power to change everything. With this, he sends a small beam of light toward Liu, which heals her in the blink of an eye. Seeing this, the blue demon freaks out again, exclaiming that Ong is a wood type. On the other hand, Ong finally begins to vaguely recall what happened in that cave. As per him, maybe it is because he absorbed that wood type one fin back then, making him think that if he can absorb this demon as well, he might be able to obtain the power of water. All of a sudden, Ong summons branches from the ground. As the branches create a throne, lifting Ong up into the air, the demon is left perplexed, claiming he has never seen such power before in his life. However, Ong is just getting started, proclaiming, "I'm excited to see the extent of demonic power." But all of this leaves the blue demon trembling in fear and confusion. He has never seen or heard of a human turning into one of his kind. Seeing the reactions on his face, Ong begins to let out a sinister-looking grin, expressing how even in his past life, he has never seen a demon show such intense fear. Nevertheless, it is time to end things once and for all. At insane speeds, Ong lunges towards his opponent and stops just before making contact, telling the demon to go. "Hit me with all you got. I want to see how strong I am in this form," as if toying with him. This leaves the demon even more terrified. Whether Ong is a human or a demon, he lets out an attack to deliver damage, but Ong easily blocks the attacks. Moreover, after creating some distance, he recalls how the wood type he absorbed had the ability to manipulate elements and tries to use them as well. The result? He captures the one-finned demon in his wooden shackles, completely constraining him. Not only that, he then begins to squeeze his foe, announcing this doesn't seem hard at all. On the other hand, the demon feels the full effects of this technique as his life slowly begins to get drained from his body. Watching him struggle and wriggle in pain, Ong tells him to continue his desperate attempts to get free. At that moment, the demon reveals that he still has an ace up his sleeve. Suddenly, he unleashes a technique called Disintegrate, seemingly transforming into water beams. This allows him to escape Ong's shackles, as well as close the distance and jump in for an attack. "Not enough. You can't kill me," the demon loudly claims. Apparently, a wood type cannot disperse like a water type, and the demon grabs a hold of his opponent's arm and tears it right off his body. It starts a beatdown where the blue demon begins getting cocky, announcing that demonic power is not something a human could understand. Ultimately, after getting a beating, Ong is sent flying into a tree. However, even despite all the damage he has taken, he begins to chuckle. With ease, he once again gets up, telling his foe that he is right. Although Ong is not fully aware of the demonic power's potential, there is something the demon also isn't aware of. Ong used to be the strongest warrior back in his life. This has made him pretty good at learning new things, and all he needs to do in order to kill the enemy in front of him is get himself familiarized with demonic power. All of a sudden, he begins to regenerate his torn arm, making the demon surprised. Ong was able to figure this technique out in an instant. Now, getting a glimpse of his power, Ong dashes in to repay the damage he has taken. Using his wood powers, he creates small steps which propel him toward his foe, making him speed up significantly. So much so that even the demon is surprised, and before he can even think of escaping, Ong has already constrained his movements once again. At last, Ong grabs the demon's head and tells him, "Don't run away." Forcing him to his knees, Ong proclaims that he is getting bored of this silly little fight and begins pouring his green core energy into his body, eventually mutating him into a demon and making the demon explode. This seemingly marks the end of the battle, and Ong, left exhausted, also collapses to the ground. But all is not what it seems. In case you might have forgotten, the demon has the ability in which he can disintegrate his body, which is what he used to escape this attack. Thinking he has won, the demon tries to stab Ong in the back, but alas, it's not so easy to bring down the strongest warrior. Not even facing his foe, Ong manages to impale him with his branches and dislodges the core straight out from his body. On his last breaths, the demon tries reaching for its core, trying to grab a hold of it, but Ong doesn't allow for that, and instead, takes it for himself. There, he explains that once a demon's core is destroyed, even a 7-fin demon would die, much less a lowly 1-fin. And so, he will now be taking his opponent's water-type powers. With this, the demon's body turns into water and leaks onto the ground, whereas Ong crushes the demon's core and drinks the liquid coming out of it, telling it to make me stronger. At this time, demonic thoughts were invading Ong's psyche and his sanity by the looks of it as well. As he drinks the content of the core, he remarks on how it doesn't taste too bad. Soon enough, his attention is brought toward Liu, who is still collapsed on the floor. Seeing her, he makes his way over to her, using his newfound water powers, and begins looking down at her. There, the demonic thoughts enter his mind again, telling him to devour the demon and kill a human, and he allows these intrusive thoughts to take over his body. Slowly, he raises his hand and smashes down on the barrier surrounding Liu. However, just before he makes contact, he manages to stop himself that too only by sacrificing his own arm. Not wanting Liu to get hurt, he stops the blow by allowing it to penetrate his other hand. As the craziness takes over, Ong tries to fight it and maintain control over his body, asking how he could kill his own ally. He wants her to be safe and tries to get the demonic voices out of his head. Ultimately, he's able to drive off the demon will from his head, making the demon king's soul, which is trapped inside him, bewildered since it didn't expect that. Anyways, back in the city walls, Lan and Sue Jiyu are seen taking part in the demon war going on, seeing the finless demons scale up the wall and attack them, not allowing them to do so. Moreover, he questions just where on earth Ong and Liu are, claiming that their team is the only one that hasn't gathered yet. Consequently, while defeating the monsters, Sue Jiyu explains that she heard 2 students snuck out of the city and were targeted by a one-fin demon. These 2 students are most probably Ong and Liu, making her worried about their safety. Hearing this, Long freaks out and begins condemning their actions. Regardless, nothing can be done about it now. In addition, seeing as they are already in the midst of a war, they decide to fight to make it out of this demon wave alive. Meanwhile, Yao Tong and Ji Yao also come back to the city and join in on the battle, seeing them arrive. Qi Yao questions if their cores are already tired. While fighting, Yao Tong exclaims that he isn't too exhausted, and he should be able to go on. Moreover, Ji Yao should be more or less in the same condition as his. Apparently, a warrior's core will be slowly drained and depleted, and the higher the explosive power, the more core energy is depleted. Because of this, warriors' strengths become weaker and weaker as the battle goes on. Fortunately, Ji Yao and Yao Tong tag team to deal with a red one-fin demon, and this has allowed their cores to stay replenished. If this was not the case, the demon wave could have ended up becoming troublesome. As the comrades defeat the monsters, Ji Yao asks what their next plan of action is. There, Qi Yao explains that since the other 2 have killed one of the one-fin demons, the attacks of the non-fin demons have decreased significantly. In addition, since one of the demons is gone, the non-fins are now like an army without a commander and are attacking aimlessly. This has made it easier for the warriors to fight them off. What's more, even though the non-fins have no thoughts of their own, they still feel fear of death. Hence, Qi Yao announces, "Let's make them fear us," and calls for a frontal assault. He wants to use this chance to weaken the enemy's desire and buy time for the soldiers on the wall to call for backup. Telling the other commanders to stay wary of their cores, he tells them all to give their foes an explosive battle this time. Getting the command of their superior, Ji Yao and Yao Tong also power up and begin the full power attack. In the blink of an eye, they clash with the enemy troops and wipe out a big chunk of the opposing force. After the attack, Ji Yao remarks on how this is the second time they have had to utilize their cores, whereas Yao Tong claims that if their core and bodies had no limits, he would be able to keep this form of his and keep on killing the demons. Meanwhile, Qi Yao sees his juniors going on a rampage and is impressed with Yao Tong's red core abilities. Nevertheless, his blue core is nothing to joke about as well. He too jumps in and begins lashing away at the demons. Seeing this all unfold is Sue Jiyu, who is ecstatic to see the first commander in action and begins taking pictures. Meanwhile, Lan watches the commander's strategy and begins feeling jealous of the power they possess. Eventually, even the commanders begin losing steam. There, Qi Yao asks if the others are alright and learns that they still have a bit of fuel left in them. Hearing this, Qi Yao exclaims that their plan seems to be working. The demons are fleeing. As a result, it is about time for the other warriors to get all hyped up, and he, trying to boost the morale of his troops, tells them all to keep on fighting as the demon wave has been forced to retreat. This allows the fighters to keep going, delighted at how powerful their squadron leaders are. However, all of a sudden, Qi Yao feels an intense chill down his spine. He tells everyone to watch out as he feels something approaching. Hearing this, Ji Yao speculates that it might be the remaining one-fin demon, but they are all left perplexed after seeing a familiar figure emerge from the dust of the battle. As the demons make way for him, also not trying to get in his way, Ong comes to the front, carrying Liu in his arms. Upon seeing them, Ji Yao grows surprised and wonders what happened to the one-fin demon. On the other hand, Qi Yao is not too thrilled. Seeing Ong, he gets angry at the fact he has come here. Even though they have managed to drive off the demon wave, rookies like them can't just come out here all willy-nilly, or else they will be devoured in a second. And just like he said, the demons finally gather the courage and pounce on Ong all at once. Not wanting this to happen, the commanders rush in to save the rookies, but it looks like their concern is unneeded. Before he is jumped by the horde of demons surrounding him, Ong just looks at the demons in a menacing manner and tells them to get lost. Sensing the intense bloodlust in their air, all the demons immediately back off and instead tuck their tails and run away. Seeing the entire wave run off into the distance, the warriors at the city walls loudly announce that they have won and managed to protect the city. Of course, some people have questions about why the demons would retreat so suddenly, but it is presumed that the commander's strength struck fear into the hearts of the demons. As a cheer for the commander's victory, the area and the commanders in question are left skeptical, wondering if they really are the cause of this. At least Yaon has the idea that it could have been because of Ong. Regardless, as soon as the demons flee, Ong sighs a breath of relief and collapses into the ground, having exhausted all his energy, and the commanders rush to their side to save them. On the other hand, while Ong is out cold inside his head, he is teleported into a dystopian world. There, he finds himself on top of a demon's skull in the middle of darkness as a voice calls out to him, claiming he must really like using his power. As he lies there, lifelessly, Ong can only question just who this voice really is, and in response, the voice exclaims Ong should be able to figure it out since he is the one who let him inside his body half a century ago. This makes him speculate that this voice must be one of the 2 8-fin demons he saw that fateful day, asking just how many still exist. But the voice replies that there are many and he will find out soon enough in the future. With this, the figure of the 8-fin demon is seen sitting beside Ong, and he introduces himself as the Crimson Fin King, the strongest 8-fin demon. Moreover, he tells Ong not to worry since he will not harm him, at least for now. Seeing him so close, Ong questions why he was chosen and what is going on with his body, but the demon gets all moody. He claims Ong is asking too many questions. Out of nowhere, another image of the demon is seen grabbing Ong's head from behind, telling him that he will learn of all the plans soon enough and there is no need to rush. In addition, he explains that Ong's body is not his as well and to keep them both safe, Ong will have to work hard on evolving himself in the future and get closer to the near-perfect being, the Crimson Fin Demon. But Ong is not amused by all of this. Slowly, he gets on his feet, asking just how lowly these demons think of them humans. In a fit of rage, he tries to attack the demon. However, when he tries to do so, he wakes up from his slumber only to see himself grabbing Liu by the collar. This gives him a sight for his sore eyes, an image so pure white it had to be censored. Seeing this, he begins to wonder just what on earth he is doing. And when he comes to the realization, he is attacked by many attendants in the room, who put Ong in all sorts of submissions. Meanwhile, the mesmerized Liu tells them all to bury Ong, but all of a sudden, her father walks into the room, claiming that this is no way to treat one's savior. As it turns out, Liu's father is a big shot of the Heliosa region. He is the leader of the fantasy martial arts family of Helios City and the head of the C2 family, C2 Soon Gone. In addition, Chi Yaor is also there with him. There, Ong understands that it was this man, his comrade's father, who was taking care of him while he was in a coma, and he immediately expresses his gratitude to him. However, Soon Gong tells him not to worry about all these things. After all, Ong has saved the young master of his C2 family, and the entire family is extremely grateful to him. Moreover, he tells everyone to rest in the dojo, claiming they will celebrate the Demon Wave's retreat later, and the commanders comply. As it turns out, Soon Gong has been watching over the commanders and tells them to take care of his daughter, apparently, as per him. Liu has a prickly personality, so they are allowed to punish her accordingly, and there is no need to give her any better treatment. Hearing this, Yaon assures him that he will do the best he can. But first, he tells everyone, except for Ong, to leave the room. And so, once alone with the commanders, Ong is then ganged up on. There, Yaon questions him about the one-fin demons that have been popping up, asking what he knows about all of this. But his soft method is not going over well with Chi Yaor, who tells him that he should hesitate even if it's a member of his own team. As such, Chi Yaor decides to show Yaon how it is done and takes over from the interrogation. Suddenly, all the commanders let out their powerful aura, trying to threaten Ong, and he asks, "Ong, are you a demon?" Of course, Ong tries to act dumb and claims that he and Liu just narrowly escaped the clutches of the one-fin demon, but Chi Yaor isn't buying it at all. He explains that one of the demons was killed by the combined efforts of Yaon and Ji Yao and asks if Ong is implying he won against the other demon all by himself. Moreover, trying to poke further, Chi Yao then asks how he managed to escape with Liu anyway, pushing Ong into a corner. There, he feels like he is out of options, The commander seems to be really suspicious of him, and he wonders what excuse he could possibly give to come out of this interrogation unscathed. All of a sudden, Chi increases his bloodlust, questioning if Ong was able to escape because he is an accomplice, but there's no reply Ong can give them. Inside his mind, he wonders if he has to reveal his secret. But would that really accomplish anything? Even if he does come out and tell the truth, what would then become of this rookie? The commanders will probably kill him on sight and not let this opportunity pass. After all, his body does house the strongest demon. Nevertheless, Chi soon gets tired of this, telling Ong that if he chooses to stay quiet, he will have to resort to violence. With this, he summons his weapon, making Ong think that his only option is to fight them off. But at that moment, Ji intervenes, telling Chi to cut it off. As per her, only demons with more than 4 fins have the ability to transform into a human, and, at least to her, Ong doesn't look like a 4-fin demon. Even if that is a possibility, there would be no point in such a powerful creature coming to this small, dinky city. In addition to this, Yao Tong also chimes in, revealing that demons wouldn't save their companions. Apparently, demons do not have an understanding of comradeship and are truly selfish and ruthless. But the fact is, Ong risked his life in order to bring Liu back to safety and exclaims, "I don't think he is a demon." Hearing all this, Chi lightens up too, claiming that he was just kidding and wanting to tease Ong a bit. He then congratulates Ong and Liu for cheating death, sympathizing with how he must be feeling. Despite this, the commanders still have little knowledge of what happened. Liu told them that she fainted during the battle and remembers nothing after it, but Ong saved her. Hence, Yao Tong asks what exactly happened. Did this rookie really defeat a 1-fin one? And this finally gives Ong a chance to calm down and assess the situation. Until now, he had been concentrating on the demon trapped within his body, and for back he could give out other explanations as well. As such, he quickly proclaims that I am a genius. Not that it amuses anyone. Regardless, he explains that he can instantly absorb most of the energy in a core and make use of it. This allows Ong to use strength far greater than usual, and, although temporarily, it's the secret weapon he was hiding. Hearing this, Ji Yao asks if this phenomenon is similar to how the commanders activate their cores, and Ong confirms this, wondering if they will really buy his story. Suddenly, Chi Yao bursts out laughing, claiming if this is the truth, Ong really is a genius, and Yao Tong confirms that this means Ong really defeated the 1-fin by himself, this time as well as the time in the cave. And Ong tells him yes. Apparently, in that incident, he discovered his power for the first time and felt his body absorb all the energy in the core. Hence, he used all this power in an explosive attack and managed to blast the demon's body to bits after catching it off guard. However, soon after, he lost consciousness since it was his first awakening. This time, he used the same method to save Liu and capture the demon, but his body was unable to withstand the burden of the technique and collapsed when he was returning. As he sits there, listening to this story, Yao Tong is still a bit skeptical. If this is true, it would explain why he has found cores on Ong's chest in a shattered state. But is that really what happened? Could everything really be narrowed down to Ong being a genius? Nevertheless, even if that is true, this means Ong's power is far beyond what he can control right now. According to Ji Yao, the method he uses is similar to how the captains activate their force power, but in order to do so, they have undergone extensive training, and thanks to this, they can minimize the burden on their bodies since they are able to control the process. Consequently, she suggests Ong does not utilize this power unless he has fully grasped it, or else it could put him in danger. And, in a heartbeat, Yao Tong backs her suggestion. More importantly, he really wants to test if what Ong is saying is true. "Let's go. We are going to the training grounds," he exclaims. There, Ong realizes that his commander is still doubting him and is raring to go. Obviously, in his current state, Ong has no chance of fighting against Yao Tong, and even though the commander's skills are what he would consider basic in his former life, his body is not able to use them at all. As such, he begins to wonder if he should use the demonic power he has inside of him. But Yao Tong doesn't give him a chance to contemplate this. In the blink of an eye, he rushes into Ong and attacks at full speed and power. Although Ong is barely able to dodge the blows, he realizes that Yao Tong is really taking this bout seriously. Seeing this, Yao Tong compliments Ong's reaction time, claiming he will be going all out now. On the flip side, this was just Ong's former experience helping him out. But alas, this is his limit. All he can do is just run around and dodge the blows as Yao Tong goes on a rampage and destroys the arena. Nonetheless, soon enough, Yao Tong is able to sneak up next to his opponent, grab Ong by the neck, and fling him to the side. Witnessing this, Qi Yao thinks this is too much and the battle should end, but Ji Yao places her trust in Yao Tong and allows it to continue. Back on the stage, Yao Tong provokes Ong, telling him that he cannot be a genius if this is all he has. But this ticks Ong off. In his past life, he was referred to as a king by the warriors, and in his eyes, Yao Tong is still but child's play. Still, since Ong has proclaimed himself as a genius, he will fail the test if he cannot prove it. And so, he decides to use a little bit of demonic energy as he can no longer live up to the standards of his former life. With this, he unleashes a strong aura and begins walking over to Yao Tong, claiming it's time for me to attack. Behind him, the image of the strongest warrior is seen lingering, and even Yao Tong notices it, leaving him perplexed. As Ong uses this demonic power, he comments on how his blood is being stimulated despite the core being of low rank. He exclaims, "As long as I utilize the consciousness inside of me, I'll be able to establish and grow the potential of this body." From the sidelines, both Ji Yao and Qi Yao are left astonished at the rising synchronization levels, commenting on how they might have found the genius of this forgotten C-rank city. Back in the arena, even Yao Tong notices that Ong's synchronization levels have exceeded 40%. According to him, Li had the best score in their batch, 39, but Ong has already surpassed her. All of a sudden, Ong calls out to him, telling the commander not to get distracted since he is coming. And, in the blink of an eye, he does exactly that and punches Yao Tong in the stomach. Although the commander is able to block the blow, he is impressed at how his opponent was able to reach twice the speed he previously could, not to mention the fact all of his stats have gone up as well. Alas, this was but a feint, as per Ong, who suddenly changes stance and unleashes a low kick, making Yao Tong stumble. As he goes down, Yao Tong is left flabbergasted at how this soldier was able to use the time he was distracted to attack, block, and make him lose balance, but the fight is still far from over. In a split second, once again, Ong goes into attack and sends a powerful aim hit to Yao Tong's head. Seeing all this, Qi Yao is left speechless and wonders how on earth Ong has so much fighting experience. Suddenly, Sun Gong sneaks up on the commanders, announcing that fighting someone known for their close-quarter combat is not a very good idea. Seeing him here, both Qi Yao and Ji Yao apologize for using the C2 family training grounds for their personal use and even causing some inconvenience. However, to Sun Gong, the inconveniences do not look minor. I mean, the arena has been shattered into pieces already. Regardless, Yao Tong will be held responsible and will pay for the damages, as per Qi Yao. But that isn't what Sun Gong is there for. Apparently, he wanted to see how Ong, the boy with the name of the world's strongest warrior, would fight with Yao Tong, one of the city's strongest. Back on the battlefield, Yao Tong attempts to defend against the kick coming his way and catches it. However, that will be his downfall. As per Sun Gong, Yao Tong has always been like this. If he sees an opportunity to attack you, he'll watch it accurately even if it is for a brief moment. In addition to this, all the years of experience he has accumulated fighting demons have further honed his skills, and freeing himself from such an ankle grab will not be an easy task for the young one. Just as Yao Tong moves in to attack, Ong, in response, gives off a smug grin, claiming, "I am the one who caught you." Squadron leader Ji Yao Tong. Once again, the figure of the strongest warrior appears behind Ong, and he, using his nimble body, headbutts Yao Tong and sends him flying back. As per him, human bones are very sturdy, but the forehead is a weak spot. Wanting to return the favor, Ong once again rushes to exchange blows, and Yao Tong prepares himself. But it looks like Yao Tong will not be holding back anymore, as Qi Yao points out. Regardless, Yao Tong smashes the ground and erects a barrier for himself. This makes Ong realize that Yao Tong is taking him too lightly by attacking and defending at the same time. As such, he decides to give his leader a taste of his demonic energy, and he crushes Yao Tong's stone barrier with ease. This allows him to use the smoke to get into Yao Tong's blind spot. The same move Yao Tong uses is getting used against him. Seeing this, Qi Yao calls Ong petty, but as per Sun Gong, this is just a show of his genius. This just demonstrates Ong's incredible learning ability. Despite this, Yao Tong claims he is much more well-versed in his moves than Ong is and tries to counter, but it is of no use. Sun Gong believes that the victor of this spar is Ong, and in the arena, Ong's final blows stop before it makes contact, sensing the force behind this punch. Yao Tong is taken aback and wonders if Ong missed on purpose. No shit, Sherlock. This marks the end of the battle, and Ong explains that if Yao Tong didn't hold back in the beginning, there was no way for him to take advantage of him. After a while, Ong forcefully concussed Yao Tong's forehead and disrupted his sight so that Yao Tong would get disillusioned and make a mistake. Needless to say, with this, everyone now has to believe in Ong's genius. Near the fighters, the arena wall is left with a visible dent in the wall from the punch's shockwave. All the while, Sun Gong's eyes widen with excitement as he thinks, if it's this kid, maybe we can suddenly. Footsteps are heard coming toward the training grounds. As it turns out, Sue Jiyu, Li Yu, and Lan have come to call Ong over for dinner. Apparently, the C2 family has prepared a feast for the warriors, but upon seeing the state of the training arena, they are all left speechless. There, Chi Yao, in a teasing manner, claims that Yao Tong has lost, but Ong denies this, stating that because Yao Tong is experienced in fighting with demons, he was not used to a human foe, and hence his actions were somewhat lacking. But hearing this, Sun Gong begins to laugh out loud like a maniac and tells Ong not to be humble. Anyway, with the fight over, it is time for the feast, and Ong heads up first. On the other hand, inside Sun Gong's mind, he comments on Ong's strong character and abilities. As per him, both Ong's intelligence and strength are full of potential. As such, he turns his attention toward his daughter, Li Yu, and asks if she is interested in him. Obviously, this makes Li Yu embarrassed. Also, tell me why her uniform is see-through while her father's is not. That's some misogyny, if I've ever seen it. Later that night, everyone is enjoying the feast the C2 family has prepared. At the table, Sun Gong raises his glass and, on behalf of all the citizens living in the city, thanks the warriors for all their efforts, even paying special respects to those who fell in the fight. In addition, there's also a note from Ong, who saved his daughter from certain death. However, Ong tells him that it was his honor and something he should have done as a warrior. Hence, he emphasizes that there is no need for the sect leader to thank him. All of a sudden, Yao Tong intervenes and smacks Ong on the head, asking why he is drinking even though he is not of age yet. But Ong just gets angry. Apparently, he is already an adult, and all warriors need to be at least 18 years of age in order to participate in the warrior exam. Though this is something the commander of the city should already know. Seeing this, Ji Yao exclaims that Yao Tong just wanted to take this opportunity to take revenge on Ong, whereas Sun Gong also chuckles, happy that Ong is already an adult. As he says this, he looks over in Li Yu's direction, who is seen embarrassed and pouting. As it turns out, earlier at the arena, Sun Gong was telling Li Yu how impressed he was with Ong's fight, claiming that his talent and potential are no less than hers. As such, even she, who thinks of herself as higher than everyone else, would feel attracted to him as well, but all this has left Li Yu's brain in overdrive. Inside her mind, she breaks down from embarrassment, announcing that her father should let her be attracted or whatnot without putting any pressure on her. Nevertheless, she tells her father not to be ridiculous. Not to mention, Ong is a pervert who ripped her Jai apart when he woke up. Back at the feast, Sue Ji is left mesmerized by all the delicious food and begins taking pictures of it. On the other hand, Lan asks how Ong managed to fight off the one-fin demon all by himself. Consequently, Yao Tong explains that Ong has the ability to take a portion of a core's strength and use it to temporarily increase his strength. Even Ji Yao chimes in, adding that his ability is similar to the one commanders used to utilize the core's raw strength, and Ong, allegedly, unlocked that ability when his life was at stake. But still, it is an incredibly dangerous technique, and since he has never received any training for it, it will cause a huge strain on his body. If he keeps up his current actions, this could cause major, irreversible injuries. There, Chi Yao, where also reveals that Ong and Yao Tong sparred just before the feast, stating that although Ong showed impressive strength in the bout, it is evident he needs more training or else his body will not be able to tolerate the backlash of this technique. But little does everyone know, our secretive little boy has already absorbed 2 one-fin demon cores. Not only that, but one of them also happens to belong to a wood type, meaning he can now regenerate himself, and because of this, Ong's frail body is now indestructible, even if it cannot handle the destructive nature of the technique. But it's not like he can just come out and say this, and a better option for him is to keep his mouth closed and let the commander think his power is just an ability similar to theirs. Hearing this, his entire team is left impressed. Suddenly, Yao Tong speaks up again, claiming that Li Yu and Ong were originally going to be punished for sneaking out at night, but since they have taken down a one-finned, they have redeemed themselves and gotten some leniency. But this is nothing to be happy about. The team competition is still underway, and her squad is the lowest rated one. Well, not like that's going to stop this team of rookies. Ong proclaims that our team aims to reach the top. With this, a month passes by after the demon wave, and the competition reaches its peak. Because of this, the other teams began taking A-rank missions as well, trying to earn as many points as possible, and this resulted in there not being enough missions. Ultimately, the team then opts for a new plan, betting using points. They decide to target other teams, challenge them, and win their points. And their target? None other than the cocky senior squad known as the Black Gun. And just with a little provocation, the target gets ensnared into the trap. The leader of the Black Gun agrees to bet 10 entire points, which is supposedly a whole lot and is raring to go. And so, a crowd begins gathering at the town battle arena. As the crowd gossips about how absurd the juniors must be to challenge their seniors, regardless, the battle continues. Liu is representing the rookie squad, whereas a female member, who happens to be the vice leader of Black Gun, takes the stage with her. There, Ong also warns the leader not to take Liu too lightly, telling him that she's not your usual hapless little girl. At last, the battle finally begins. All that is going through Liu's mind is the 10 points, and she wants to get it over with. In the blink of an eye, she manages to close the distance between her and her opponent and inserts her green core energy into the foe, rendering her arms useless. In Liu's mind, she is delighted at the fact their plan worked out. Apparently, the Black Gun is very strong when they act as a team, but when alone they have no idea how to attack or defend. With this, Liu brings the fight to a swift end by targeting the foe's joints and tendons, and she calmly walks away from the battlefield, completely unscathed, proclaiming that the C2 family is best at close-quarter combat. With this, she gets off the stage, once again sending the crowd into gossip mode. However, it doesn't look like the leader of the Black Gun is too amused by that. Angrily, he announces that he will be going up next and asks if the rookies dare take the challenge. To sweeten the pot, he even decides to bet a whopping 20 points. Earning this, Liu immediately agrees. But all of a sudden, Ong chimes in, explaining that since their captain just finished fighting, she should take a break and states, "I'll go instead." Of course, the Black Gun leader is not having it, claiming he will only fight with Liu, the team leader. However, Ong begins provoking the opposing captain even more, so much so that the leader gets enraged and ultimately agrees to fight against Ong instead. With this, both fighters head into the arena. There, Mr. Masked Man tells Ong that he has changed his weapon to a training weapon, though he doesn't need to fear death, only intense pain if the shots land. He even gives Ong a chance to choose his own weapon. Nevertheless, after a while of thought, Ong just gets curious about the old weapon he used to use, wondering if it could still be in that place. But for now, he decides to use his fist. Hearing this, the Black Gun leader begins mocking Ong, asking if all newbies are as arrogant as him. He belittles Ong, telling him that he will get no mercy since even a lion uses all its might to hunt down a rabbit. On the other hand, Lon comments on how no one knows Ong's real power. He managed to win a spar against Yao Tong and even killed a one fin on his own. However, Liu is seen torn apart. Although impressed by Ong's strength, she is left to question if that guy is really better than her. In her mind, she doesn't want to be weaker than any of the other squad members as the captain. Not to mention, she is constantly getting reminded of what her father said that night. Eventually, the fight finally begins, and as soon as it does, Mr. Masked Man begins running around the battlefield. Apparently, the longer the range of his weapon, the more damage it will do. "I'll pierce 1,000 holes in your body before you even get to reach me," he announces. Meanwhile, Ong decides that there is no need for him to hide his strength any longer. The goal is simple: get first place. And in order to fight against the demon within his body, he needs to exceed the power of his former life. "I need to get stronger than what I was before." Noticing Ong space out for a bit, the foe uses this as his chance and shoots a projectile towards his opponent. Nonetheless, Ong easily dodges the bullet and rushes in to deal damage as well, but oh so predictable, at least to the Black Gun's leader. As per him, he was sure Ong would rush. And so, he has come prepared with tracking bullets. These sticky, high-speed bullets are not only hard to dodge, but as long as one of them hits, the rest of the bullets will follow suit and hit the target as well. But little does anyone know Ong has the powers of a water type, which he uses to swiftly avoid getting shot. This leaves the opponent in a pickle, as the Black Gun leader tries to back off and maintain some distance. Ong continues ahead, full speed, and this forces the Black Gun's leader to unleash his ultimate attack, the explosive bullet at point-blank range. Alas, Ong is no mere pushover. Utilizing his wood-type powers, he constrains his enemy's movements, causing the gun to misfire into the sky, allowing Ong a chance to disarm his foe. With this, he then lands a kick, bringing the Black Gun's leader to the ground. This marks the end of the battle, and Ong tells the team to hand over the 20 points pronto. From the sidelines, Lan and Suwa Ji compliment their teammate, whereas Liu is left astonished by the fact that even she couldn't track Ong's speed at the end. Regardless, this gave the rookie squad a whole 30 points. After this incident, many other teams, both younger and older alike, wanted to fight against the squad as well. As such, even Lan and Suwa Ji participated in the following days, and slowly but surely, Team Liu's points started getting piled up. With each battle, their rank in the team competition rose significantly, and by the end of the month, they had managed to attain the first rank at an incredible speed and finally got the chance to participate in the final competition. The final battle between the top 3 teams will soon begin.